Hey there. Now, with this lesson, we're actually going to have a look at how to place your fingers on the guitar. Might seem really obvious, yeah, you've got to push them down, but there's certain tricks that make it a lot easier when you want to get a good sound. So we'll jump right into it. First simple thing is pushing down hard. Now, you might think, yeah, well, that's kind of obvious. I'm going to push down, right? So say if I go to the A string and then I'm going to push down on the second fret. Now, you'll notice I'm pushing down in between the two frets. Okay? Now, when you think about it, you're not really pushing down in the middle. What you're actually doing is bending the string over this metal piece. Now, if I go back here, I can still do it, but it's harder. If I go right up to this edge, I can still do it, but again, it's harder. Right in the middle is the easiest place to push down. Now, when you're up this end of the fretboard, pushing down is a little bit harder than, say, if you're right up here. And you'll notice that. There's a lot more tension on the string when you're pushing down here, just between this bit. So just keep in mind, it gets easier as you move up the neck. Now, one of the other things is you might get chords or scales or bits and pieces that end up with your fingers really close together. Now, if I have my E minor chord, first finger there, second finger there. Now, you might want to place them like that. It doesn't work. I mean, it kind of works, but it really doesn't. Not in the long term. So, pushing them down. Now, tucking them in nice and tight so they're as close in together there is the best way to do it. Now, you'll notice another thing as well. So if I've got my fingers flat like that, I'm missing half the notes out of the E minor chord. This finger is hitting all of those strings underneath, and it's just making them dead. You don't hear them. So push your wrist forward. Okay, I'll turn a little bit sideways so you can see it. If you feel really uncomfortable, now you can push your wrist forward a bit and you'll see here my fingers are coming down straight down over the top. Give it a lot more power. So if you're not able to actually push the string down easily, that's one great way to get there. Now, being locked in like that doesn't really work in the long term either. So you want to have a little bit more power, just pushing the wrist forward a little bit. So, okay. Now, you should have a nice, clear every single note on that chord. And that's really good technique. Now, another quick one, when you're placing your fingers, keeping one finger for each fret is really handy. Sometimes you'll need to stretch, but having it nice and comfy, so you can see here I've got this finger loaded for that first fret, this one for the second, this one for the third, and that means I can get really fast. So okay, so my fingers are loaded right where they need to be. And when you get really fast, you start to get some great runs going, and you just won't be able to get past this sort of speed barrier if you don't have your fingers in the right spots for the fret. Okay, so occasionally, and you will have seen me do it as well, I might play off here. Okay, so I'm still using my first and second finger instead of these. Now that's where you're actually going to think, where do I need to go in the future? So my finger placement here, if I'm doing a scale that's running up like this, I'm loaded. Okay, so my fingers are ready for the next note. Okay, so, or I might be heading further down, staying up this end of the guitar. So, there's some finger placement tricks, pushing down in the middle, pushing down hard, and actually keeping one finger per fret. Now, practice those on your scales, and I'll just slip in one last little thing. The way I'm holding the guitar, it's not necessarily the best way to do it. Have a look at a classical guitarist and you'll see that they change the body so that it sits between the legs. Now if you actually put your elbow up like that, now you'll feel a lot less pressure on that wrist. Okay, so for these videos and for the sake that you're probably kicking back at home just playing on a couch, you know, we'll do them like this. But later on, when I really need to get fast, I dare say I'll have to change the guitar style up and actually, yeah, play a little bit more classical to get the speed. Thanks heaps, and I'll see you on the next lesson.